How to enter the public service if you don't have a long employment history. I'll explain how. Hello, welcome to Dangerous Policy, a channel for intelligent people wanting to explore and consider complex ideas in life and society. My name is Crispin. We have a program here aimed mostly at government, aspiring and current new government officials. This is anywhere in the Western world, where we try and educate on how to be a good government servant, what it means for various government processes, and how to have a successful public sector career. And one question that I keep being asked, and has come up in the comments a bit, is, I'm not someone I'm just starting out my career. I've just got my degree. I don't know how to enter the public service. I don't know how to do the application. I don't know how to go through the process. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how to be successful. I don't know how to compete with other people who seem to have a lot more things on their resume. And that's an understandable anxiety, and something that is true not just for the public sector, but for all kinds of employment, particularly today. What I'm going to do is, in the Australian context, explain how we do it here. And I think this will still be very useful no matter where you are. So if you're in the United States or Canada or New Zealand or Japan, all of that, what I'm about to advise should help you, okay? So in Australia, the application process is based on what's called the STAR system. The STAR system is where you're being asked to consider a situation and what was the problem and what action you took and what was the result. So the STAR system stands for situation, whatever situation. This doesn't have to be a workplace situation, it can even be in your personal life. Task, what the objective was. The action you took, and the result, what happened as a consequence of that action. Now you can do this. So all of the questions that are asked when it comes to selection criteria on the application is targeted towards that. And the important thing here, and this is really important for people who are just starting out, nobody cares that actual situation, task, action, and like what your background was, right? Like where you were working, what you were doing. Like that is a second tier consideration at best. What people care about is your ability to answer that question in a structured, thoughtful way, right? So even if you're drawing on a personal experience, something completely extraneous to the public sector, that doesn't matter. What matters is your ability to follow that process. So another example would be like when you write an essay for university, okay? The examiner shouldn't care what argument you take, okay? What matters is, do you have the structure in place? Have you got the references? Have you got a consistent logical argument? Do your paragraphs make sense? That's what you're being graded on, okay? You're not being graded on, is it the right or wrong answer as to whether or not we should tax people at this rate or this rate. Like that's not what it's about, nor is it about that in the entry exams for the public sector. So practice that. So, and like look at you can look up online very, very easily example questions of STAR, like name an example when someone was unreasonable. What did you do? Like very basic stuff, and then come up with examples that you can practice. Write in your written application, because that's obviously the biggest thing that is assessed. And then when you go for your interviews, make sure you practice in front of the mirror and practice in front of a camera exactly how you would answer these questions in these various situations. So take the process seriously, because that is how people enter the public sector in the first place, and how they progress in their careers when they apply for jobs within the public sector. It's all a competitive process, and it's all done very fairly. There's always multiple panelists. That can be very intimidating, but that's not what that's there for. It's not to intimidate. It's to make sure that there is probity, that the people aren't being privileged, that everyone is being assessed equally, and therefore you should be you should be done in that respect. So when people are looking for people to enter the public sector, when I'm looking at someone who's applying for the first time, I recognise that this is a person entering the public sector, and they may not have a lot of workplace experience. What I'm looking for are the traits that people have to have a successful career, to contribute positively to their team, to have the skills to do the work required. But most importantly, are they going to be successful public servants long term? It's important not to be too parochial within the public sector. And this is advice for both human resource people and also applicants, that when you are assessing an applicant, it's important not just to think about your own little box, because the high probability is that within a few years that person will move on to something else. And what's important is to bring good talent into the public sector, people who have the right stuff to be successful government officials throughout the decades to come. So for that reason, if you're applying for the public sector, don't be discouraged. Do not be discouraged just because you haven't got a lot of workplace experience. Everyone starts on the ladder in that same box. What matters is that you've actually conceptualized the system. So when you see a job for a public sector agency advertised, make sure you read not just the selection criteria, but I'll obviously do that, but read the actual process that you go through in great detail. So when they say, the written application process, exactly what they're after, and then look up examples of that and try to replicate that. Obviously, don't plagiarize or copy anyone else, but you understand the thinking process, because that is what is being assessed, not the content. The content is extraneous. What matters is the process and the thinking and the thoughtfulness. So you want to demonstrate competency when you are applying for the public sector, not, this is a job for an area in the finance area. Okay, well, I haven't done a government budget paper before, so I'm stuffed. No, that is absolutely not how it works, right? How it works is, here's the selection criteria. How do I demonstrate that I have the skills to grow and learn in the job? Because everyone will when they're starting out. No one starts out an expert. Even if they have a lot of experience, they still need to adapt to the new environment. And then what you need to demonstrate is your ability to compete on that level. Right? And this is so important, because when you get a series of applications, you'll be amazed, probably not now in today's sort of COVID environment, but you'll be amazed at how many applications are received, right? So, for every job, there's like 100 applications at least. And you, when you're going through each, like in the public sector, you are lucky in that every single application will be looked at, right? So in the private sector, people will go like, okay, it's too much work. Oh, this person looks okay. I'll pluck them out of the hat and away you go, right? You're not supposed to do that, obviously, but there is a return of effort, a pragmatism to hiring people in the private sector, which in the public sector is not acceptable, right? In the public sector, every person must be treated fairly. So every application is assessed based on a standardized criteria, and the scoring that's done on that criteria will determine whether that person progresses to the next stage. So yeah, that's really important. And I've always been successful in my applications. Like there was one person who I'll never forget. It was in Australian government who I applied, and even though my application was really good, that there were other people that had just niggled me out, and that person who was assessing the application actually called me up to say, and don't expect this, by the way, called me up to say, great application, amazing field, unlucky, right? Like, so that was very generous. But the point is that every application is rigorously assessed, and often you do have multiple people, like in this case, where many people are competent. And what makes you stand out as someone who is inexperienced and yet entering the public sector is an ability to demonstrate, this person has almost no experience, and yet they still clearly follow the format and understand what is required, and have the capacity to think and grow Ergo, we're going to give that person a chance. We're going to interview them and see how they are, even if after the interview we go, look, there's someone who is massively more qualified, and it would just be unacceptable based on this objective criteria to employ this person. Well, you've just made a series of contacts, and I tell you what, in the public sector, people get on the phone really quickly, like, look, I found this really great talent, don't want to be lost back into the workplace, what can we do? Now that doesn't mean that you'll get a job, it means that you'll get more opportunities. So demonstrate a willingness to learn, demonstrate competence, demonstrate confidence, and also that you really want to be part of the public sector. And if you do those things and you've put in the effort, then you will ultimately be successful. So it is hard to break into the public sector. I'm not going to lie. It's much easier to change within the public sector agencies than it is to enter in the public sector in the first place. And in an earlier video, I talked to that. I'm like, look, don't turn a job in the public sector just because it's not what the area that you want to be in, because it's much easier to move from one agency to another than it is from the private sector to the public sector. That is definitely a much smaller gap to jump. Just from a process procedure for the government itself, it's easier to employ people who are already in the public sector. So keep that in mind. But yeah, as a rule, again, recapping, STAR process: situation, task, action, result. Make sure you follow that thought process. Think about what the examiner is asking for. Make sure it's well written, right? So none of this half-assed I'll apply in 5 jobs in one day thing. No, if you're applying for the public sector, that is what you're doing that day. Okay, so review your work carefully because people will be excluded based on their sentence structure very straight away. Both because we get so many applications that it's an easy way to be like, okay, well, this person was clearly lazy and didn't care, ergo they're not going to proceed. Also, it's the writing is such a critical skill within the public sector. So to demonstrate competent writing means that it goes over and above the rest of the selection criteria. In fact, almost every application, every job advertisement in the public sector has a question about communication skills, ability to communicate ideas, ability to brief people, ability to deal with multiple stakeholders. So you need to demonstrate good writing skills, demonstrate good thinking skills, and be straightforward about the fact that you don't have a long history of employment in the public sector. People are people. They're not. They understand that a lot of people don't have that background, and they're not judged for that. They're actually treated quite fairly. So good luck. I absolutely encourage people who have realistic views of what the public sector is and want to be a government official to apply. I think it has a lot going for it in the public sector. I wouldn't have said that at university. I was a bit of a, it's a bit of a joke where I did a public sector course at university, and I was always laughing at the public sector as, it's so silly. And now, I'm a career government servant and love it. So good luck. And if you do have any questions about the application process, certainly in the Australian context, I can answer those. And if you have any challenges, advice, comments, criticisms, questions, just let us know. All right. Thanks so much. Oh, and if you have got value out of this, do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel, helps with the YouTube algorithms as we expand. So otherwise, have a great day.